Okay. Hi, everybody.
We're live.
We are.
I always give it like a
Welcome.
beat. I give it a beat because I think an ad plays at the beginning. So I don't want to like put the best stuff into the universe, Rosalina, when people are interrupted
Oh,
by an advertisement.
I actually had no idea. I learned
But
so much from you, Robin.
you've got we're from the logo / Robin Lundberg show collaboration. Rosalina's graphics and all that stuff is better. So as you can see in the
And
thumbnail, so we might as well go with your stuff.
yeah, no, this is the first time we've done this together on both our channels. So we're just testing things out, see how it works out.
It's a good day to do it, though. I mean, that is, yeah, I mean, when you look back on things, about as positive a day as the Indiana Fever could have possibly had yesterday, essentially locking up a playoff spot, like all but locking up a playoff spot. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it would take a lot for the Fever not to make the playoffs at this point, considering they not only beat the Storm, who they're in competition with, but the Sparks lost. So the Fever go up to sixth. At the same time, the
Mhm.
Sparks fall 2 full games behind them. If they beat Los Angeles on Friday, Vince Carter meme, it's over. And then on top of that, you get the news before the game that Caitlyn Clark is continuing to ramp up. I mean, she's been in back-to-back walkthroughs, and I thought it was an important distinction was made there that they don't have to have quote unquote team practices for her
Mhm.
to participate in practice. They can basically simulate that. And it seems like all signs are toward her return. You know, given the way the season is gone, there can be a setback. You can't count your chickens before they hatch. But if she responds well, she's going to be back on the floor sooner rather than later. They bought her time in the process. And look, they played the Lynx tough. They smacked the Storm. Everybody that's come in is fitting in with the vibe and the culture of the team. They've got a bunch of double digit. I think Pat Boylan put out. I think they're second in the league in 20-point wins or something like that. And
Oh,
Caitlin Clark,
wow.
yeah, Caitlin Clark is on the mend. I mean, there's no reason to not be optimistic about what the team can still do.
That's true. I mean, I think that Lisa Leslie did go on during the game yesterday, and she talked about how she would not bring Caitlin Clark back, which is interesting because I feel, especially after speaking to specialists in the field, that you really never know what an injury is until you've kind of like dissected it. And like sometimes they're even hard to dissect, but like a groin strain is very different than a different type of groin injury. And so for Lisa Leslie to say she had the same type of injury, I wonder if she know how much she knows about the type of Caitlyn's injury,
Well,
like no one can.
I don't think she has more information than we do from like an insider perspective as far as
Right.
like actually knowing Caitlyn's specific situation. She can speak on what she suffered. And she said it earlier in the year that it's something that like she still deals with and still feels. And I don't want to dismiss what she went through, but I would say like ultra silver lining, Caitlyn's groin has had more time to heal because I honestly believe Caitlyn Clark would already be playing, or at worst would have played last night if
Mhm.
not for the ankle. I don't think she is being out because of the groin anymore. I don't think she's held out because I think she's healed. I think she
Well,
is.
but yeah, they did say the ankle was a setback, so or Steph White did.
Yeah. So I think she's healed and healthy. The question is, can she hold up to the activity? You know, reintroducing her. She's been on the shelf for so long.
Right.
Can her body respond to that? But I don't think it's a question of Caitlin Clark still being hurt.
I mean, especially at this point in time, because at this point in time is when everyone is playing harder and they're like gearing up, for a playoff push. So people are going to be playing harder on everybody. And it's, we know that everybody plays harder on Caitlin Clark in general. So I think that they know that. So they want to be very cautious.
Yeah, and of course you don't want, there's a long-term investment here in a superstar. But I've never seen so many people not want their favorite player to come back and play. First
I
of all,
haven't either, actually. And I
this is
don't
insanity.
understand this. I'm wondering, is it like a disdain for the league, or I don't know what it is.
Well, there's the group that like sees Caitlin Clark as the protected princess in the porcelain doll. Like, you're not posting about Caitlin Clark enough. You better post about Caitlin Clark some more. Like, and when you look at this situation, think about it like this. First of all, Caitlin Clark is a professional athlete, right? She's a professional basketball player. It is her job to play basketball. So if she is healthy and able, and her team is in the playoffs, she should play basketball. Secondly, the team has fought its ass off. It has fought its ass off to stay in this position. You've had people come in and out of the lineup. We're talking about players, people had never heard of. Chloe Bibby, comes over. People are like, oh no, Chloe Bibby's hurt. No one knew who Chloe Bibby was before a month ago. Odyssey Sims is in the mix. Ariel Powers is in the mix. I mean, talk about Lambert, who's not there anymore, but really somebody nobody had ever heard of. This is the type of moving and shuffling the Fever are having to deal with and fighting in the midst of it. And I said it when that Sun game happened. Yeah, it sucks that Sophie Cunningham went down in that game. But how do you watch that game and not want to come back? So all that with the disclaimer of, if there is something that the doctors or the medical team or anybody else is identifying and saying this is a real risk factor, okay, that's a different story. But if Caitlyn Clark is on a normal trajectory for injury recovery, is healthy and ready to go, holding her out is insulting. It's insulting. It's a spit in the face to her teammates. It's a spit in the face to the fans. They don't play again until May. Who knows what's going to happen in the midst of the CBA negotiations, how long that is going to take place, how that could impact things. And you only get so many chances in a career. You only get so many playoff opportunities. And it drives me crazy when people look at it and like the only successful result is a championship. So if they don't win a championship, the entire season is a failure. No, I don't buy into that nonsense either. If she's healthy, she's ready. She needs to get back on the floor, and they need to get into the playoffs and see what they can do.
I mean, the truth of the matter is if the season had ended with the Fever just kind of like falling flat and like not really going anywhere, we are going into a very big free agency. It is like a free agency that has really never existed before in the league. And the type, like how you leave the season, there's going to be like a bit of like a recency bias with free agents or whatever. So if Caitlyn Clark is healthy, and again, I stress very much saying that if Caitlyn Clark is healthy enough to come back to play, like what athlete doesn't go back and play when they're healthy just because they don't want to? Like it's kind of odd. And I call it like the CC is Messiah complex or whatever. But if she does go back, like the Fever with Caitlyn Clark, the Fever with Kelsey Mitchell, the Fever with Aaliyah Boston, and add in Lexi Hull in there, and too bad Sophie Cunningham's not in there, but like they are a force to be reckoned with. They're a force to be reckoned with without her. And the fact that they lost to the Lynx does not make them a bad team. Like I was getting a lot of feedback that the Indiana Fever just suck. And I'm like, do you realize the offensive output that they put down against the Lynx? And if it were any other team other than the Lynx, Indiana Fever would have won that game, because they played, especially in the first game against the Lynx, they played great. They were knocking down like shot after shot after shot. It just so happens that Cheryl Reeve is an amazing coach, and her adjustments are crazy, and her cuts are wild, and like the screens and whatnot. But if it were any other team, the Indiana Fever would have won that game. And because they played great and they didn't suck. They actually don't suck. And the fact that they don't suck at this stage of where they are with having to bring in all these new people really, really does say something. And, I hate to sound like too sentimental or whatever, but this team really does have heart, and they really do have grit. It's kind of wild.
And, Caitlyn Clark is not the first athlete to get hurt. She's
this is true. This is true.
Every year, players get hurt.
In the history of basketball.
She's also not the first athlete to suffer a groin injury. I mean, we heard Lisa Leslie talking about it, but Steph Curry had one. LeBron James had one. When you get right, you come back. So, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. The way people talk about this and discuss it and act as if, you waited so long to see this team and to see her play, and now you want to wait until May when the playoffs are here. Like, and they're in the playoffs and they got a chance. You roll the dice. And by the way, do you believe in Caitlyn Clark or not? Do you believe in her or not? Because if you believe in her, the way that all of this popularity has spawned from because of her basketball abilities, then how do you not give the Fever a puncher's chance? if you can put her back out there with that same core from last year, which is Lexi Hull, who's tough as nails, Aaliyah Boston, who is improved from last year, has taken a
Big
leap this
leap,
season.
big leap. Yeah.
Kelsey Mitchell, who's a bucket. You put her with Caitlyn together, that is fearsome for any opponent to face in the backcourt. Not to mention, like Natasha Howard wasn't there last year. Some of these players have come in and helped on the fly. Odyssey Sims was great in the game last night. We'll see how things shake out with the hardship contracts, but I thought Aerial Powers helped from a rebounding and effort standpoint. Shea
Mhm.
Petty shot the ball well in the previous games before that. They probably can only, I think, keep 2 of those players, but you get the
Mhm.
point. You roll the dice. You roll the dice. Like, even if it's a few games, it's a few more games than she would have played, and you see what you can do. And you got a chance to, let's say, the most conservative. I think the most conservative way you look at it, she's back on September 5th against Chicago, right? Like, to me, that's the most conservative timeline, because it allows them to get back home. There's another break between games. Even if she could probably be ramping up on this road trip, and I'm not saying she couldn't come back on the road trip, but even if
Yeah.
you're being as conservative as possible, she comes back on the 5th. She's got 3 games to play before the playoffs, and then you rock and roll once you get there. But because last night did a lot to buy her time and to basically lock them in.
I mean, I feel like when you have like a Caitlyn Clark on that team, and again, I'm gonna, reiterate that we have Kelsey Mitchell and we have Aaliyah Boston. And I don't know if you noticed, but the pick and roll is back. The pick and roll came back in the game last night, and it wasn't Caitlyn Clark, and it looked good because I think that they were testing things out to see like what they needed to do. Like they were using Aaliyah Boston as this like Jokic like playmaker like hub thing, and a lot of her paint points did suffer. So I think that they were trying to like reel those back. And last night, the formula, all the ingredients that they'd been putting together from the previous games, that's what ended up working. And it's not as if like we were up against some chumps or anything. Although had 42 rebounds to 21 rebounds is kind of crazy. But it's not as if we were up against some chumps or anything, and it ended up working out really well. And when you add Caitlin Clark into the mix, like so much is possible. And that's why I'd be very excited to see her back. Again, barring full health.
I
Disclaimer.
don't even know why we need to say that anymore. I'm tired. Who cares what these people are saying?
I
Like,
I
shut
knew
up.
you were gonna say that. I
Shut
knew
up.
when I said that, I knew you were gonna say that.
Like, what are we worried about?
You're
Like,
like, stop pandering, stop pandering.
like, of course, no one wants her to be hurt. No one wants her to have long-term health implications. Duh. But if she's ready, she should play. If she's ready, she should play. I mean,
No, I agree, and it does like this idea that we do live in like this like alternate universe where even if she's ready, she shouldn't play. Like it kind of does get to me every once in a while too. I'm like, wait, what? Like how does this make sense? Like, wait, what? Okay, I don't know. I guess there's something I need to think about. But no, no. If she's healthy, she should play. A healthy athlete plays.
Yeah, it's her job. It's what she's employed to do. It's what made her famous in the first place. I mean, like you, I just don't. I don't understand. I really don't. I don't get it. And what are you protecting? I mean, like you're gonna. How many months you want to another 9? Look, you could make the argument, or I certainly. I don't know if you can make the argument because I don't have the inside information, but you can certainly speculate that perhaps some of this happened because she didn't play for so long, versus she did play. She
We did
played,
talk about that.
yeah,
We
she
did
played
talk about that.
Iowa and then into the WNBA season and was used to playing. And then she had this massive gap and time off. And a lot of the other players didn't have that. So, I mean, I don't know if her body had trouble responding to that. Who knows? It could just be bad luck. I mean, Sabrina Ionescu talked about having these sort of soft tissue injuries early in her career as well, and gave her the advice to make sure she's fully healthy. But we can't sit here and say they haven't been cautious about it. I mean, the MRI basically indicated, at least from what Stephanie White said at the time, that this was a minor groin strain, and she's been out for 6 weeks. So that's, it's go time. It's go time,
So
and the team fought for it to be there.
I also do hear the argument that she's been out too long and things like that, but I always think back to last season when there was that Olympic break, and then when she came back from that, that was when that was when she was her best. So she's been out what, maybe a week or 2 weeks longer than the Olympic break, right? At this point. And so I don't see that as an argument to not bring her back, because every time that Caitlyn has had a rest and that I have seen, she has come back kind of like come out of the gate swinging. Because I personally, and I don't know if this is just something, I actually haven't spoken to a lot of people about this, but I do notice that Caitlyn does get fatigued after a while. Like after a certain point in the season, I started noticing it last season, before the Olympic break. And then then the break happened. And then she came back like, full of like fire and, piss and vinegar or whatever people say.
Oh, I thought no, I thought she was supposed to handle the ball on every single possession and never come out of the game and not get tired. Like that it's the same people who want her to handle the ball on every single possession and never come out of the game who now are like, no, don't bring her back. Like,
I know.
is it
Caitlyn,
Uchiwali or is it one Mike? I mean, come on. But I don't know if you get that reference, Rosalina, or not.
no, wait, which one?
Is it Uchiwali or is it one Mike?
Oh no, I didn't even hear what you said. I didn't understand what those words were.
It
I
was
thought you were
it was in the midst of the Jay-Z Nas battle, and that's basically Jay-Z's way
Oh, of
of calling Nas a
course.
hypocrite
Jay-Z
because
the GOAT. Jay-Z the
yes,
GOAT.
Nas would make these like deep records like One Mic, but then he would make like these superficial records like Uchiwali. So is it Uchiwali or is it One Mic? Is it Black Girl Lost or Shorty Oh You for Ice? Like
I
that's
never, ever would I have ever gotten that reference, ever in my wildest dreams. You put a gun to my head and I would be dead.
Mm. By the way, I don't have access to the comments, so I don't know if Tulip is in there moderating or whatnot. But
Oh, really? No, you
I
know
can
what?
see the comments, but I can't. I
Oh,
guess because of
you
the way the stream is set up, I can't put them on screen. So there's some super chats and stuff in there. So
Oh,
you're gonna have to pop them up.
you Tulip is in here. Tulip, hi. Yeah, no, okay, there are I haven't been really looking at it, but Randall Flagg is a new member. Wait, Randall Flagg, that sounds familiar. I think that's like, isn't that in Stephen King's it's a character in Stephen King's book, Randall Flagg? I don't know. Anyway, River says Clark isn't half the player Paige Bueckers is. Ooh. um You wanna talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, Caitlin Clark is better than Paige Bueckers. It is what it is. But Paige Bueckers is a terrific player. To me, the difference between the two is
Terrific.
yes, the way that Clark is able to activate everybody else and extend the defense out to her and then play make in between. It kind of reminds me a little bit, one, it's a backlash to Clark's popularity where like everybody's got to be better than her. Kelsey Mitchell's better than her, and Paige Bueckers is better than her, and Ari McDonald is better than her, and the Fever are better without her. And anytime anybody has a good game, oh, your favorite could never. First of all, when Caitlin Clark has a good game, I don't think anybody ever goes, Paige Bueckers could never. Like that's not, just the way that kind of
She's the
should
goal she's the goalpost.
yeah, it's the standard. But it reminds me a little bit of like LeBron and Carmelo Anthony, and then later LeBron and Kevin Durant, where people would make the argument that Carmelo was better than LeBron early in their career because he had more of a quote unquote bag or was more versatile in the way that he went about scoring. Same thing with KD a little later in his career, and KD relatively a better player than Melo. But LeBron doesn't matter about like the variety if the
Yeah.
results are what they are. And it kind of reminds me of that in that sense. And look, I mean, I think Paige is great, but I don't think she's on Caitlin Clark's level, no matter how many times people want to say it. I think the results speak for themselves, statistically, individually, team wise, and attention wise.
I think there's some differences and I think there's some similarities. Like I could actually see a world where Paige Bueckers becomes a more efficient scorer. I can see a world where Paige Bueckers' points per game could even be higher than Caitlin Clark's. Now, the points per game thing, like I said, I could see a world. I could also see where Caitlin's points per game are higher. But I do think that Paige could be a more efficient scorer, especially in the mid range, than Caitlin Clark. But you can't ever say that Paige will be better at scoring and playmaking than Caitlin Clark because it's just never happened. And I don't see the way I love the way Paige plays. I think I was on the phone with Robin. I was like, you better start watching this game. Like,
Mm.
and we were watching the 44 point game together because I was like blown away. I think she's great. And it sucks that like there is this narrative where you have to say, I think Caitlin is better, and it like pushes Paige down when essentially, I think Paige is great. I just don't think that she is the same type of player that Caitlin is. And I don't think that she brings the same excitement to the game that Caitlin does. And Caitlin does make a lot more mistakes. And that's actually fine because she takes a lot more chances that are just like they're like fireworks, you know?
Yeah, she's better. It's okay. She's better. She has more of an impact. She's better. She's more explosive. She was more efficient as a scorer than Paige Bueckers rookie to rookie. Threes are worth more than twos. So that's
Sorry.
another aspect of the way that you look at it. I mean, Paige is a more pure scorer is kind of the way, like aesthetically a pure scorer in the sense that she gets into the mid range and she scores in that way. But, Caitlin is just more explosive in the 44-point game. After that, it hasn't been the same level of production in regards to, and everybody like knows, Caitlin hasn't been around, so it's easy to do it now and do the whole parade and dance on the grave kind of deal. But I of course, Paige is a great player. Again, it's like this pussyfoot and stuff in the WNBA space. You don't have to like always like, oh, I have to appease in order to say something or have an opinion or have a stance or talk ball. I'm tired of that shit. So that's the way I look at it.
All right. Well, we have Stern here saying the job that Coach White has done has been unbelievable. I love me some Stern. Stern comes into my chats all the time. But yeah, I think he's a big Coach White fan, and I agree. I think that what Stephanie White, because I can't say that I can't say exactly what her style is with Caitlin Clark because there has not been enough games that Caitlin Clark has played with Steph White to really understand and develop a style. And while, she does play slower and maybe inevitably it won't be the way that Caitlin Clark wants to play. But as far as what she's done with this team this year, I think that it's pretty incredible because I would never imagine a team that has gone down so many players and so many important players to be like primed for the playoffs.
Steph White has done a great job. She has a great case for Coach of the Year. She's been tremendous. Look at the cards she's been dealt. As far as her dynamic with Caitlin Clark, there's clearly mutual respect there. I think there was a little bit of friction in play style and when Caitlin Clark should take some of the risks versus when she shouldn't. But as far as also pace, the Fever play every damn broadcaster that does a Fever game talks about like, oh, the Fever are at their best in transition. The other team has to watch out because the Fever play fast. Every player that comes to the Fever goes, I want to play here because the Fever play fast. The idea that the Fever play slow is a myth. That is not true. They do not play slow. They play fast. They're one of the fastest teams in the league. If Caitlin Clark had been healthy, I would be willing to bet they'd have the best offense in the WNBA as well. These things are not born out of reality sometimes. They're born out of this, again, it's like this aggrieved mentality sometimes from a specific portion of the fan base that is only attuned to the things through the prism or the lens of Clark kind of worship in a sense, or whatever word you would like, a deity princess kind of, what did you say at the beginning? But that's the way I see it. And then so everybody becomes the enemy. Whether it's Stephanie White or the admin for not posting her enough, or anybody else who talks about any other player, like
But
versus
it's
all of.
but it's also very alienating to Caitlyn because it creates, like, everything in her orbit, like, they're like, resentment for everything in her orbit, you know? So it's very alienating to Caitlyn to, like, put that much on her at the same time. But I do have to say, like, I don't know how Steph White coaches Caitlyn. Like, I don't know if she's the best coach for her. I don't know the opposite either. I think that what she has done with this team, which is not with Caitlyn, is great. Now, I think I happen to think, and this is just my personal opinion, I think that Caitlin Clark is such a strong-minded person that she would go along with, like, a coach's decisions for a little while, but if she really felt like otherwise and she wanted to make a play and she wanted to do something, eventually, like, it may take a few games, like, for her to, like, just realize, like, this is who she is. Like, I feel like she has the wherewithal and she has the strength of personality to do what she thinks is best and what she thinks works. And again, this is a complete and total opinion, um, from somebody who does not know Caitlin Clark at all, by the way. But she, she could have gone to Notre Dame and she decided, no, I'm going to Iowa because I'm going to build this thing because I believe in like myself, and somebody that believes in themselves that much to turn down Notre Dame and go to Iowa has a very big strength of character. And if it doesn't work out with Steph White, it's not going to work out. I haven't seen enough games to like be able to fully form an opinion.
And again, I think there's respect there. I mean, we see them interacting on the sideline and whatever. It's sometimes, through conflict, you can get to results at the same time. And I mean, I don't think you're wrong in the sense of either way. Again, I saw, I don't know if a power struggle is the right word, but a philosophical differences at times in the beginning of the season, sure. But Caitlin Clark also has more power than any other individual player. It's not as if the Fever are not aware of her, influence and what it means to their bottom line. So, Caitlin Clark is essentially the boss if she wants to be. If Caitlin Clark had a problem with Stephanie White and wanted another coach, guess who's out the door? Stephanie White. And
Oh
to
yeah.
your point about taking over, Christy Sides, I mean, she did that at the halfway point. Clark is Trae Young at best, similar game. I've seen these comparisons. By the way, Trae Young is a great player. So I'm not even going to take that as necessarily a diss. Trae Young is a scoring and assist maestro. Caitlin Clark is bigger relative to her position than Trae Young. I think she's a better playmaker relative to her position than Trae Young, who is a terrific passer in his own right. I think the comparison on taking deep threes, but not necessarily being the most efficient shooters there is valid. But if Caitlin Clark is Trae Young, then who is Paige Bueckers? Because that's the same guy that threw that out there. I mean, I think I see the perspective you're coming from, Mr. River.
Well, Alejandro Hernandez says when they start guarding Paige from 94 feet, grabbing her, poking her in the eye, and saying that she has a special whistle, she'll never be as good as CC. That's pretty much the counter argument very often. Christina's here. Oh, hi, Christina. Totally forgot Rosie was going live with Robin. I'll catch up later on what I've missed. Love watching both of you. Love you so much. Always focusing on the basketball and not the drama. Well, sometimes the drama gets focused on, but that's quite annoying when it does. Thanks, Christina. All right. That's all the super chats we got.
The WNBA does lead all leagues in drama. I mean, even
It does.
even the Angel Reese Candace Parker thing from the other night, where they're all honoring Candace Parker and Angel doesn't wear the Candace Parker shirt or has it under.
Oh, wait, is that what happened? I didn't
Yeah.
follow it. I didn't follow it that night. I think I was out. That was the day that I was out. Oh man, that is so funny. I did not know
Every player
that.
had on a Candace Parker t-shirt except for Angel had her normal warm-up on. So I don't know if she had it on under it or not, but you couldn't see it. And she was the only one. Yeah.
Tulip's a great mod. She's always like telling the chat to run the likes up, and I don't know. I've become a big fan of Tulip.
I like Tulip too.
Yeah, no, Tulip's my girl. All right, so next up on the docket, does anybody have anything to talk about? Reese's petty and petulant. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to read that.
I mean, was there another? We're talking about another WNBA topic, or
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what the show's about.
Did you see what Satu the thing with Satu Sabali last night?
Which one?
The unrivaled thing. You
Where she
wrote
was
about it.
talking
You
where
wrote
she was
about it.
talking about how she could get they could get paid more in Unrivaled. Like, why would they stay in this league if they could get paid more in Unrivaled?
Or the idea that the WNBA is trying to get rid of Unrivaled. So it does bring up that whole conflict of interest aspect of it, which I kind of like ignored on the character of Fee and Brianna Stewart, where I don't think they would ever do anything that isn't in the best interest of the players in the league for their own sake. Like that they wouldn't work as bad actors. But it is an interesting point if indeed the WNBA was, leaning in that direction, and they haven't said anything publicly. In fact, publicly they've been very supportive of Unrivaled. But let's say, like, in a universe where that is part of the CBA negotiations for increased pay on the WNBA side, if you're Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, who have raised all this money and brought in all these investors, you can't, in negotiations back off on that, right? Like, so
there's definitely that. But okay, so here's what I wonder. Players do go overseas, and they have been doing this since the inception of the WNBA, since before the inception of the WNBA. They play basketball overseas. So now that Unrivaled is here and it's more readily available, now that's a conflict. But I think that the fact that Unrivaled does pay more, like, the WNBA does kind of need to, like, up the ante. And I do understand, like, oh, there's investors that need to get their money back that have been investing in the league for 20 something odd years. And what most people don't understand is most of these big, huge, like, Netflix didn't turn a profit for 20 years. When you like start these big conglomerate corporate, like, companies, they're expected to lose money for a certain, like, decades at times, and it was expected for the WNBA to start losing money. But I think that because now it's starting to, like, get money, that argument is being made that, oh, we've been losing money. But it's like, duh, like, the NBA was losing money for a very long time. The Netflix loses money. So the fact that you're using that as an argument to not pay people more when you're making more kind of doesn't sit well with me. And Unrivaled now is that league to challenge the idea of how much the players get paid.
well, the players are gonna get. I mean, I don't even think the WNBA is hesitating to make a big raise.
Revenue. I
Yeah,
mean,
revenues. I
revenue.
mean,
I'm
yeah,
not only talking about paying. I mean the whole shebang.
yeah. But if you're and I don't know what the commissioner versus the owners, but if you are the league owners and you say we're making more of an investment in you and we're giving you more of a revenue share of the league and we're paying you more and all that, but in return we would expect you to give us exclusivity. That's the way a lot of contract negotiations work, right? Like, the more you pay, exclusivity is part of that deal. So I could definitely see that being on the table.
Will the Fever keep their core players next year? Do you have an idea? I think that they're going to keep Aaliyah Boston, like, obviously, no doubt. Aaliyah, Caitlyn, they're going to keep KK because she's on a rookie scale contract. And I think that they're going to keep Kelsey Mitchell. And I know that most people think that it's a shoe-in for Kelsey Mitchell, and some people think that there's no way they're going to keep Kelsey Mitchell. But I can see a world where she might leave, and I can see a world where she stays.
Well, then there's also, like, the MVP T-shirt. So that's a show of solidarity around Kelsey Mitchell. It seemed to mean a lot to her, right? Like, I mean, those are I don't know. I don't see I haven't seen anything from this group that would indicate any sort of everybody's going to make the decision that's best for themselves and for them professionally, but I don't see anything that would make me believe or give any indication that there's friction or anybody's apt to head out the door as soon as possible, including Kelsey Mitchell. So I would imagine, they would be protected in the expansion draft, and I certainly would bet on Kelsey Mitchell returning. Obviously, CC and Aaliyah would be back. They're still under contract.
Well, I'm not necessarily talking about the expansion draft. But what I'm saying though more is like, it's not that there's friction between the players, but like there's a lot of outside noise that some people just like don't necessarily want to deal with. You know what I mean? Right now, Kelsey Mitchell's dealing with a lot of it, with this whole, there's a lot of backlash for the MVP, for those MVP shirts, and the fact that, the Indiana Fever didn't post CC's logo in a timely manner, but they were wearing MVP shirts the day before. And it's like, these are the things that Kelsey Mitchell, it's like she does hear them, whether, we like it or not. But whether I think that there's friction between them, no, I don't think so at all. But sometimes there's a situation that's, when there's a spotlight that heavy on you, it's not necessarily ideal for every type of personality.
Yeah, except
I
for
want
Kelsey.
Kelsey to stay.
She came back this year. And she doesn't seem like one. I don't think
I mean,
Kelsey's
that doesn't mean she's going to come back next year. She
No, it
came back
doesn't.
this year, but that doesn't mean she's going to come back next year.
But those same things applied. I don't think Kelsey Mitchell is chronically online. Anybody who has a good head on their shoulders would just ignore all that bullshit. Who cares? None of that's real. There is no actual backlash to Kelsey Mitchell and MVP shirt. That is not a real thing.
Mom was on Venom's show last night, and she talked about how it does get to them. Like it does, and how they have to. By the way, one thing to note is, they do feel a lot closer together. Like they feel kind of like, when you go to war with somebody and like,
Yeah.
you're in the trenches with them, and then you form that sort of bond. That's the bond that this team feels together. But, at the same time, when there's a free agency bonanza, sometimes you weigh your options. And Kelsey Mitchell already made it clear last season she wanted to weigh her options. And I'm not saying that she's going to leave, but I'm saying that the potential for it, I don't see as like 0%.
Well, yeah, anytime anybody's a free agent, they could leave. I'm not saying it's 0%. I just don't see anything different now versus then. And I don't think there's a real backlash to her MVP shirts. Just like I don't think there was a real backlash to the Fever not posting, and whether the players allow that to get to them or not is on them. I mean, I think there's always going to be a lot of noise. And look, we allow it to get to us even sometimes too. So I'm not saying you can totally block it out, but what's real is the support that she gets from her teammates. What's real is the love she gets in the arena, the all-star votes that she receives. I guarantee you, like, this stuff is not happening in real life, when she's out on the streets. So I mean,
of course, none of it happens in real life. None of the Angel stuff happens in real life. Angel has said that nobody has ever gone up to her in real life and acted the way that they act towards her on social media, but there is still a heavy effect, there. Let me get to some of these super chats. Wallace Boss says, with crazy free agency in our immediate future, do you think that we will keep the same core next year, AB and KM? I think that we just went over that, right? Yeah. Satu Sabali would never complain if she had to work as a roofer in South Florida in August for about a week. That's funny.
Is that what you're doing?
Is that what you're doing, Albert Jimenez? Oh, here's Stern coming back in saying, with all these free agents, how is the expansion draft going to work next year? Going to be wild out there. It really is. And I'm wondering the same thing myself, because it's like, if Toronto and Portland decide they're going to take, I think it's going to be a week expansion. Like, I think it's not going to be a very strong expansion. We were talking about this the other day. I thought about it. And with all of the free agents, if Portland decides, hey, I'm going to take name somebody that's going to be Naz Hillman, okay? And then she's a free agent, and then she decides, actually, I'm going to bounce over to the Storm. It's like I don't know what rules they're going to have for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff has to be addressed. It's there's no uniform. The expansion draft rules get set by the league, so it's not like they have to follow whatever
I
they
know,
did
but they
before.
haven't been set yet. So I'm wondering what the parameters are going to be. You
Well,
know?
yeah, because it also might get pushed. So I don't know how fast they're going to have to get into. At All Star Weekend.
That's true. It might get pushed. You mean with the
They
CBA?
they talked about. I mean, Kathy Engelbert. This is why I find some of the hysteria hilarious, because these negotiations, until there's actually a hard deadline, nothing ever happens in these sort of negotiations until they run up against when they actually have to get something done. And Kathy Engelbert at All Star in her press conference basically, pushed aside the idea of the October deadline. She was like, "Yeah, it would be nice if but if we don't get things done
Yeah,
by
yeah,
then,
yeah.
it's not necessarily." She really, to me, outlined the hard deadline as the draft when the players
Yeah.
from college are going in. So that's April. So that means we could hear a bunch of back and forth and nonsense up until April. Now they would have to go on a really accelerated timeline to get the expansion draft in and the free
I
agency
mean, and
period in.
free agency. I mean, just because of the free agency bonanza, you know?
But you could have that all happen within a span of 2 weeks. It's not like that needs a lot of
I
time to
mean,
play
that
out.
all right. For every single player to be a free agent, to have all of this happen in 2 weeks is going to be crazy. It's going to be bananas. Every single player in the league, and not every single player is going to be moving. Like, I don't think that many people from the Liberty will move, or the Lynx, but there's going to be some movement. There's going to be a lot of heavy movement, especially at the in the lower tier teams, and the middle of the pack.
Well, also, there's nothing stopping, you know, things happening that aren't official. This happens in the NBA all the time, where like the moratorium gets lifted, and then all of a sudden 75 people sign contracts at the same time. It's not like all of them got
Oh,
the
I
phone
mean, I'm
calls.
I'm sure there's gonna be backdoor deals,
Yeah,
but
that's what
what
I'm
I'm
saying. Like,
saying what I'm saying is like two weeks to like still like get all of this, like I don't even know how many lawyers there are going to be, or how many, the agents are gonna be able to write up all this paperwork.
it would be a colossal misstep by the players and the league to allow the progress that they've made and all that to be hindered because they can't reach a deal. Well, I mean, the WNBA has shown its ability to fumble a bag before, or an opportunity, but I just, again, I've seen a lot of CBA negotiations, and the NBA is locked out twice that I can remember. 99, and when was the other lockout?
You know what's different about this one though? I think that it is the free agency. There's a lot of movement, and this one is a little different. But I'm right there with you. Like I think that there's going to be a point to be made in missing this first deadline. Those are my thoughts. Like, we are definitely going to miss this deadline. We are definitely not going to agree because we want to send the message that we're serious. You know? Oh, let me read this because it's been here for a minute. And River wants to reply to Alejandro. Clark never faced a championship level defense when the entire game plan was to stop Paige. Clark got beat up. Yeah, sure. So did 85% of other players. I mean, she did face championship level defense twice.
I don't even understand what that means. She never faced a. When did Paige face a championship level defense the entire game? What are we even talking about? Are you talking
Well,
about in college or the
I
pros?
think we're talking about in college, but like the fact
Oh,
of the matter is like Caitlyn was in the finals twice.
who was the MVP of the Final Four? AZ Fudd, not Paige Bueckers. Who was the freshman that rocked everybody's world and set the world on fire? Sarah Strong. You know, Caitlyn Clark never spent a second on the court in college with anyone as good as AZ Fudd or Sarah Strong. Kate Martin's a pretty darn good
No,
player,
and
but
Caitlin Clark and no other teammate of hers was ever named MVP of anything other than Caitlin
yeah.
Clark.
So I mean, she faced South Carolina, who's every team's entire game plan was to stop Caitlyn Clark. She put up 40 something on South Carolina when their entire game plan was to stop her. Let's not like the Caitlyn Clark thing is not based on some sort of hype or any of this others. She's the all-time leading scorer in the history of college basketball. She led the country in points and assists twice. Then she goes into the WNBA, produces more points in a single season than any player ever had before in history. She's already got as many 20 and 10 games as anyone in history, while she was facing more blitzes and everything like that than anyone had ever faced before. More defensive attention than anyone had ever faced before. None of this stuff is narrative. None of this stuff is imaginary. All of this stuff is based on impact and based on how special she actually is as a basketball player. And, I'm just not, I don't allow, I'm not, I know what I see. I know what I've watched.
It's kind of wild to not be able to see things like that. It's wild to not recognize that when somebody enters the WNBA and they break the all-time assist record of all the WNBA in all 27 or whatever 27 years that it has been around. Is it 27? I know it's 97. My math ain't mathing. But like since its inception, that is a crazy feat. Like, yes, I mean, wow, what Paige Bueckers did the other day, 44 points, that's amazing. But that is not an all-time record in the WNBA. That's a rookie record.
Caitlyn was responsible for more points than any player ever last year.
There you go.
Ever.
And assists.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean by total more points, like whether it be through points or assists. She was responsible for producing more points than any player. Paige Bueckers has not had as good a rookie season as Caitlyn Clark had last year by any measure. There's no way to look at it. Let me look at their relative rookie campaigns. Forgetting even throwing out the fact that the Dallas Wings are the worst team in the league. We'll dismiss that part and just chalk that up to her teammates. But let me look at their relative statistics from their rookie year. Okay. So what do we got here? Paige is at 19 points a game. Caitlyn Clark finished at 19.2 points per game. So even with this current scoring streak, Caitlyn Clark averaged more points. Paige Bueckers, 3.9 rebounds. Caitlyn Clark, 5.7 rebounds. So about 2 more rebounds per game. Paige Bueckers, 5.2 assists. Caitlyn Clark, 8.4 assists. So more than 3 assists per game. Paige Bueckers, 0.5 blocks. Caitlyn Clark, 0.7 blocks. Paige Bueckers, 1.36 steals to Caitlyn Clark's 1.3. So she has a minor edge in steals. True shooting percentage. Caitlyn Clark, a higher true shooting percentage than Paige Bueckers, which is a combined metric of field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage to give you one number. So there's literally no way to look at it and say that Paige Bueckers she's had a tremendous and historically great rookie season herself. Like, she has had a great rookie season, and measured against almost every other rookie season in history, she's had a great rookie season, but and a historic rookie season. But her rookie season is not as good as Caitlyn Clark's rookie season was, any really way you can look at it or stack it.
All right, we got Bobby from Nebraska saying media rights fees next year will be close to $300 million, collected upwards of $950 million, and expansion fees in the last 2 years. In expansion fees in the last 2 years, WNBA were broke. Bobby from Nebraska. I know who you are. Who did you used to be? This guy used to always get me to try to say Bobby from Nebraska. Wait, I don't understand what this says. I think that this is
media rights fees next year will be close to $300 million, collected upwards of $900 million. I think he's saying the opposite
of we're broke. Like,
we are broke. He's saying they're complaining that they're broke.
WNBA, we're broke. Okay, I get it. The facetiousness. All right. And James Fender says, Clark got lucky. She ain't that good. Lol. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say, James. Doggy treat fun. Yeah, I was just that's Hugo, by the way. I know that some of my followers are some of my subscribers are fans of Hugo, like John Dark Knight here. Yay, Hugo. They call him Hugo, actually. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else want to say anything before we start wrapping up here? Hugo vibes. All right. Well, I think do you have anything else to say, Robin?
I mean, I always got stuff I could say, but no, nothing I
Oh
have.
man, we talked for 50 minutes, almost an hour.
Well,
10
I mean,
minutes shy of an hour.
yeah. I mean, these, yeah, like that's the 50. Would stretch it. I mean, it always depends on much the audience is feeling in the chat. But I think we did hit all the main beats. You know, I don't got nothing I have to get off my chest unless there's
Can we,
something
can
else.
we just can we just give a big round of applause for the Indiana Fever and their 42 rebounds, crashing the glass last night. Rebounding is something the Indiana Fever have been sucking at, and the Storm actually oddly suck at rebounding too, even though they have Dominique Malonga, even though they have Neka Ogumake, and even though they have Ezi Magbagor. So I need to give a big round of applause to the 42 rebounds. That's double what the Storm got of 21. Exactly, Tulip. They doubled it. And
But
Tulip,
Storm,
Tulip, I want to say I'm so sorry for your Sparks. I sent you a message. I know you're rooting for them.
Storm are kind of trash too. They're gonna have they're gonna clean house at the end of this
They're
season.
They're sometimes trash and they're sometimes great. They're very confusing.
Well, they got too many good players to be schizophrenic.
Any insight on the magic numbers for WNBA teams? What does magic numbers mean?
How many games they would have to win to clinch a playoff spot?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. To be honest,
It sort of depends.
ESPN did ESPN WNBA playoff probability. This was as of yesterday. ESPN put out an article where here we go, percent chances to make the playoffs. So right now, this is according to their index of 2025. The only teams that don't have a 100% chance are the Fever at 96.2. So the Fever have a 96.2% chance to make the playoffs according to this. The Seattle Storm have a 94.4% chance to make the playoffs. The Golden State Valkyries have an 83.3% chance to make the playoffs.
Interesting.
And
It's because of the strength of schedule coming up. And when was this released?
This is now. At least unless it hasn't updated. And the Los Angeles Sparks have a 25.5% chance to make the playoffs. I mean, a lot of it's influenced the fact that they're ahead. You know, like whether your schedule is hard or not, the other team has to make up ground. I mean, you look at the standings, the Storm are a game and a half behind. I mean, the Sparks, I'm sorry, are a game and a half behind the Valkyries. They're 2 full games behind the Indiana Fever. And the Sparks have to play the Fever, the Mystics, the Storm, the Dream twice, the Wings, the Mercury, and the Aces. Now that Aces game they may be sitting, but if you're looking at the strength of schedule of the Sparks is rough also, and they have to make up ground in order to do it. Not to mention they have head-to-head games with some of the teams that are in front of them. So I mean, the teams that are already in position are in the driver's seat versus the Sparks who have to make up ground. So it's given them about the Sparks about a 26% chance of making the playoffs. I might handicap it a little higher than that, but I do feel like so much of the doom and gloom was spun the Fever's way off of Lynx losses when you looked at the schedule, you already had those as losses, right? Like when you were doing the game of W or L.
Scheduled losses.
Yeah, so why would you then change your mind based on that when you had that in your mind ahead of time?
No, I mean, in my videos, I felt like I was being way too positive because I was like, this doesn't mean they suck, guys. And I swear to God, their playoff hopes are not gone. And I knew that everyone was thinking, Like I was getting comments like, yeah, you really must like your team. And I'm like, no, I really don't think that that the playoff hopes, I'm a realist. I'm very logical. Very often I'm putting the Fever, I'm ranking the Fever lower than Robin would rank the Fever when I was doing the power rankings, I'm not like illogical about it. But
Where are they at in net rating now? WNBA net. I'm interested where the Fever, because I used to track that and then I stopped tracking it because they were so hurt and banged up. It didn't even feel like, like the same. Indiana Fever are still 5th in the WNBA in net ranking, which is, offensive rating minus defensive rating for they're still, by the stats, the 5th best team in the WNBA for the entire season. And that's with Caitlyn Clark out for almost all of it. And, a piecemeal rotation thrown together due to other injuries and all the point guards going down. The only teams that rank ahead of the Fever are the Lynx, the Dream, the Liberty, and the Mercury. And the Mercury, it's by 0.2 of a point. The Mercury are 3.8 net rating to 3.6. So they're in a virtual tie to be a top 4 team in the WNBA, despite all of this stuff. And somehow everybody's jumping off of a cliff all of the time. It's never made sense to me. We all would have said going into the season that the ultimate success or the failure hinges on Caitlyn Clark. And then you remove Caitlyn Clark from the equation and people are still critical despite everything else happened. Again, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes in discussing it. And overall, the Fever the only team I wouldn't want to see them match up with is Minnesota, because Minnesota is like a historically great team by the metrics. Everybody else, you're saying that
it's Minnesota, big gap. Everybody else.
We'll see what happens when the Liberty are healthy. That's another thing too. But none of these teams have proven to be like definitively superior to the Fever.
Yeah. I mean, I think we match up well against the Liberty, and there's a lot of people that think I'm crazy for saying that, but I really do. I also think, I mean, I knew I said this, and I'm so glad there's proof of me saying this in videos, but I never had, I wasn't worried about the Storm too much because of the matchup, just because of the matchup. The only thing that I was worried about was that they were on quite a winning, like they were looking really good the last few games, and that momentum carries. But as far as matchups go, yeah, wasn't worried. I wasn't at the beginning of the game though.
And they beat the Sparks on Friday. It's a wrap. Oh, signed, sealed, delivered. It's a wrap if they win against the Sparks on Friday. The rest of the season would then just be preparation for the playoffs.
The Sparks, I don't see as a good matchup.
Well, they've lost to them every time they've played them, but I think they kind of owe them one. And the Sparks
that's true. That's true. I mean, it is hard to lose, to win, to beat the same team that many times. That's like what they say every year, like whenever, when the Liberty lost to the Fever last season. But yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, like, even if the Sparks beat the Fever, they still are a game behind them. They'd have the tiebreaker because of the win, but they'd still be a game behind them with the rest of that schedule to come. But like I said, if the Fever beat the Sparks on Friday, the rest of it is cosmetic, and it would take a collapse at this point. I mean, again, I just read you what whatever ESPN's formula is, 96% chance to. That's a grade you want to take home on your report card, 96, right? Like the Fever are in good position. They're not in negative, weird, scary, crazy, oh my God, the sky is falling position. They are in strong position.
No, a grade you'd want to take home on your report card. That was a funny parallel. Okay. Anyway, really getting off now. Oh no, we get another super chat. I mean, no. We have to read this. Okay. How boldly oops, I lost it. How boldly is this league hurting themselves with the Connecticut deal not being done with Boston? That is something weird that I feel like keeps getting swept under the rug. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I always thought that they would move to Boston. I mean, it seemed like when they were doing those games at the Garden, it was sort of signaling that at TD Garden, that is. But I'm not sure what's going on there. The favoritism behind the scenes for the teams that have put in expansion bids, but it is a bit of a mess because I would have thought it was signed, sealed, and delivered once the Boston offer came through to buy it from the Mohegan Sun tribe. But I think the real thing that stands out the most to me about that deal is, again, the poverty crying. When the tribe bought the Connecticut Sun for
Yeah.
like $10 million, and now they're selling them for $325 million. So year to year profits sometimes can get lost in the sea of the fact that would be a $315 million increase in
Yeah.
team value.
Poverty crying. But no, but the fact that it wasn't presented, I don't know. It does seem really fishy. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to have like a very well-informed opinion though. James says now you can read this one too. Well, I appreciate that, James. That's pretty funny. Y'all are funny. All right. Gonna go now. Got anything else, Robin?
No, I'm good.
Well,
Yeet.
thanks for joining me. This was fun. Fun talking to everybody. I will talk to you, I guess, later, Robin, and I'll see everybody in the chat probably pretty soon. All right.